You're listening to Systemic Era Podcast. The failure was designed.
Rattled White House fears ex-aide took millions for up now working against Trump report based on an article by Alexander Willis. Howard bought the messenger, then pretended not to notice. A Time report says Brad Parscale, Trump's former campaign manager, took a multimillion-dollar contract from the Israeli government through his firm, Clock Tower X, to run an online pro-Israel influence operation. According to the reporting, the effort ran into trouble as Trump moved to end the war with Iran, and both Trump officials and Israeli officials ended up furious at the result. That is the surface story. The real story is how proximity to presidential power gets monetized, then dressed up as messaging, when it is plainly influence-peddling. The asset was access. The central fact is not that Parscale ran a campaign, it is that his value is his perceived closeness to Trump. The contract, Time reports, was secured in part because of that proximity, that is institutional power in the open of foreign government paying for access to a political intermediary because the intermediary is believed to carry weight inside the White House. This is not accidental contamination. It is the business model, the same political ecosystem that treats personal loyalty as a credential also turns that loyalty into a commodity. Influence is the product. The reported operation was not merely information, it was an influence campaign aimed at shaping views around Trump, and then it collided with Trump's own political interests when the president pushed for a ceasefire with Iran. That collision matters. It shows the operation was never neutral public communication. It was designed to move political behavior, and it was funded because that movement was expected to serve a state agenda. When foreign money flows through a former campaign manager to shape domestic political perception, the euphemisms become part of the crime scene. Online influence campaign is just a polite label for buying leverage and laundering it through influencer culture. Scapegoat theater. Parscale denies everything and says anonymous officials are making him a scapegoat. That denial is politically useful, but it does not erase the larger structure. Whether he personally crossed every line or merely operated inside a rotten system, the relevant question is who created the conditions for this transaction in the first place. The answer is obvious: a political world where former campaign operatives can cash in on their access, foreign governments can buy their services, and the White House can act shocked after the fact. The outrage is selective because the underlying practice is normal. Everyone involved wants the scandal to be about one man's conduct, not the market for political access that made the conduct profitable. Israel's image machine. The Israeli official quoted in the piece complains that Parscale was paid lots of money and things have only gotten worse. That is not a repudiation of the system. It is a complaint about failed execution. The reported $9 million contract is only a fraction of the $730 million Israel plans to spend to improve its global image during its siege on Gaza, which the article notes has been described as genocide by a UN commission and human rights groups. That scale tells you the real priority, not truth, not accountability, but perception management. When a state facing mass atrocity allegations budgets hundreds of millions for image repair, it is not seeking understanding, it is buying insulation. The Arizona detail matters. The report also says Parscale has been accused of helping facilitate foreign intervention in an Arizona Democratic primary through AI-generated political persuasion texts. That allegation matters because it points to a broader pattern of the same operatives who monetize national-level access also traffic in local manipulation, using new tools to press on democratic weakness wherever they can find it. The target here is not just one election or one government. It is the idea that political legitimacy can be hacked, outsourced, and repackaged as content. That is how democratic institutions get eroded in practice, and not with a single dramatic coup, but with an endless stream of paid interference normalized as consulting. The pattern is straightforward. Wealthy actors, foreign states, and political fixers have built a system where influence is bought, accountability is blurred, and the public is left to sort through the debris after the fact. Trump's orbit is not an exception to that system. It is one of its purest expressions. The problem is not that one advisor got greedy or one contract went sideways. The problem is that American political power is so openly for sale that a former campaign manager can become a channel for foreign influence, and the surrounding institutions respond with denials, anonymity, and fake surprise. That is not a glitch. It is the governing arrangement. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Raw Story for today's article with the automated voice of Kristen. Thanks for listening.